All right, we are back. And I know I said that we were going to have a topic ready for us by this weekend, and we definitely do because I was just on Twitter. And as always, the familiar patterns reveal themselves in very interesting ways. And although last week was more contingent on some commentators that were more in line with, I guess you could say, more respectable. Today we're stepping into the mainstream with some more familiar names, and I just wanted to share this real quickly because there was a thread by our good buddy Thomas777. Of course, we're all very familiar, and I was kind of holding on to this because I wondered if we're going to be able to talk about it. And then some breaking news today made it even more appropriate. So, we're going to start with some old news. Now, a couple things. So, first of all, Joe Rogan has been under scrutiny by Spotify because of his platforming of people like that Dr. Robert Malone, something along those lines. And, anyways, talking about you know what, suggesting things, and that is no good in the current climate. But that is not what I'm here to talk about today. Because to tell you the truth, I don't think that that's very interesting. And I think most people are well aware of the, what would you say, just the current events, whatever, news cycle. What is more interesting, in my opinion, and this being a show that critiques pop culture and tries to see what some of its pressure points are. That's a good analogy for Joe Rogan. I just want to talk about two people because I think that this is very relevant. So, first of all, we have Glenn Greenwald, who is sort of the epitome of moderate, not far left, left that critiques the left, however you want to describe it. And so a lot of people on the right have come to grow on him, people like Tulsi Gabbard, people like Barry Weiss, who talks about the intellectual dark web, all of these moderate voices, Jordan Peterson, the intellectual dark web as a whole, is sort of the gatekeepers of politics and the sort of refrain that a lot of politically curious people sort of fall in line with a lot of the, how would you say, the very milquetoast form of politics or politics. We're going to be talking about another personality who is also very relevant in this discussion. But I want to start with Glenn Greenwald because Glenn Greenwald wrote this on his Substack, and he talks about, I mean, I didn't read it, but you can imagine this is more commentary defending Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan has become this sort of role model figure for certain people on the right, for a lot of, I don't know, people who aren't really invested into politics but see these headlines and sort of latch onto them. You can imagine. So I want to start with Glenn Greenwald as somebody who's not really on our side, but because he's not against us, a lot of us kind of clamor to him, and it's a little strange because he's really he is liberal and he is falling in line with a lot of people on the left on most issues. I remember Dave Smith did an interview talking about how Tulsi Gabbard is really uh, not really someone to rally behind because there's only like one issue that people on the right like her for, and it's the anti-war rhetoric. Glenn Greenwald is also in that category, and yet we kind of a lot of people fool themselves into saying that he's somehow somebody to I don't know, pay a lot of attention to, as opposed to just you know vaguely agreeing with whenever he says something obvious. But I want to move to our main topic, our main topic for today. I wanted this live stream series, if you will, to kind of just really be about some of the more funny moments on Twitter because I think it's very underrated. I think a lot of this side of politics really is contingent on philosophy and super serious political analysis. And I really want to bring it back to Twitter, because Twitter was really the game changer for me. Twitter was what made politics fun, made it funny, and it just had this Zoomer energy that I can't really describe. I imagine this is what the 2016 online right was, since I kind of wasn't paying attention at that time. And most people aren't really paying attention. They're sort of checking out people like Joe Rogan, Glenn Greenwald. They're seeing these, as I said, politics version of current events. So I wanted to highlight something that Thomas said, and I think this is this is the thread. I'm going to read most of this because I think Thomas could defend his position a lot better himself, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, of course. So Joe Rogan is the consummate milquetoast. This bears on what we are discussing on T-Gram this morning. So further context. And later on, he goes on to talk about something specifically, if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. With this new Jackass movie in theaters, this is also very relevant, and I'm sure that was the inspiration for this thread. Similarly, stoner bro Mr. Rogaine is the perfect 21st century pseudo-curious apathy man. Then keep wait, pseudo-curious apathy man. Then keep jagoff priories who've outgrown Johnny Knoxville but aren't bright enough to educate themselves happily in their open air prison. And to me, that really sums up this sort of vague topic in the title, the 21st century pseudo-curious apathy man. Because, like Glenn Greenwald, Joe Rogan is not really right-wing. He is sort of a moderate, like we said, with the intellectual dark web. He is the constant refrain in politics. He is the safety net for the political commentators to stay within the bounds of political correctness. And it's ironic because one of the attractions to Joe Rogan is the politically incorrect, kind of looking around and not really falling in line with the mainstream outlets, so to speak. However, as I pointed out with Dave Smith talking about Tulsi, that doesn't really make him non-mainstream. He is just a mainstream figure that happens to say obvious things. And so obviously this is not a groundbreaking take. I saw Academic Agent is going to be having a legendary panel talking about James Lindsay, who I think we're going to be talking about next stream. But I just wanted to start the series right now. Within this hour, I just saw all of this unfold on Twitter. So I just wanted to start this in case I, let any more time go by. And I think James Lindsay, we're going to really get a little more descriptive. I'm probably going to put something on Substack, and I'm curious what you guys think about feedback. I know we just started that this week, and I wanted to hear if you guys were interested by any chance. But this is just so funny to me. One of the things that I think is interesting about people like William F. Buckley is he really is, or Ayn Rand too. I got, not proud to admit, but what was it? Last month, I was kind of reading a little bit of Ayn Rand, and of course, by no means do I agree with her on probably hardly anything. But I am curious by these characters that are caricatures of the political scene that they live in. Ayn Rand is this hyper individualistic, hyper self-centered person who talks about political philosophy that is contingent on selfishness. And she admits that herself. And so to kind of see people like Joe Rogan, I didn't even talk about the other thing. What made me want to talk about this was one of the reasons he's in the news right now is because in the wake of all this, Spotify's taking off episodes of his that are deemed disinformation. And so you got people like Ted Cruz saying big tech strikes again, on and on and on. However, reacting to all of this, Joe Rogan released an apology video that is almost like 5.5 minutes long, something around that time frame. And he goes into descriptive detail about apologizing for the offensive things that he has said. And so I just, again, not a groundbreaking take, but it just goes to show you that, like, when push comes to shove, the pressure is going to have the most impact on somebody like Joe Rogan. And when we're talking about pseudo curious intellectual topics, a lot of that stuff takes a back seat in comparison to, Spotify knocking on his door. So I just think that that's very funny. Like I remember Ann Coulter described Donald Trump as what is it, a stress, what is it, a stress ball, or a couch rather. His opinions are contingent on the last person to put pressure on it. And so it's, Ann Coulter's a little cringe right now, but it is a perfect analogy for what's happening with Joe Rogan here. I just think, to me, this really hits all the beats. You have the caricature, Joe Rogan, Glenn Greenwald, curious for their own good, but still working within the framework of what is deemed acceptable by political correctness, and then apologizing once push comes to shove. So I just think it's everything. It's all there. And I want people to remember this because, not everyone's going to watch the videos. Not everyone's going to really pay attention to this news. This is happening on a Saturday. That's the other thing, too. A lot of this stuff kind of goes over people's heads, and people fall back on, well, at least Joe Rogan talked to Dr. Robert Malone and better than the alternative and this and that. But I want us to enjoy this stream, knowing all of the dynamics that are at play here. Spotify having this influence, Joe Rogan not wanting to play ball, and his fans sort of trying to make sense of the whole thing. So I think that about sums everything up. That was what I wanted to illustrate in real time. And so I just think that that's very, very interesting. What do we got here? We got some regulars, Big Brain Content, Agitated Irishman. Thank you. Always a pleasure to see your guys' content on here. Yeah, controlled opposition. Another perfect way of describing it. For an MMA fighter, Joe Rogan sure knows how to back down. Yeah, that's the other thing too. That's the other dynamic that I didn't really consider all the way through, but the other aspect of Joe Rogan, he's this tough guy, this macho, a real man's man sort of a deal. You know what I mean? The typical boomer archetype. What does it mean to be a man? It's contingent on weightlifting and all of this physical labor. How about something like telling the truth? How about when Spotify, who's already given you trouble in the past, maybe standing up to multinational corporations, maybe that's a better description of being a man than making a 5.5 minute video of you apologizing, But again, not anything groundbreaking. I just thought that was really funny, and I think that this is going to be a pattern. We're going to be talking about James Lindsay later on. This isn't going to be an extensive stream like last week, but I want this to set the stage. I want this to be the intro, and you're gonna love to see how this ends. So anyways, that was really all the content I had in mind. Of course, Thomas is always insightful on topics like this, and him being around longer than me, I think that he has a better cast and crew that he can point to. A lot of younger people, I think, because 2016 was the first election they paid attention to in detail, a lot of the stuff is brand new. Controlled opposition is brand new. When they vaguely like certain celebrities, they really want to hold on to them and approve of them over the alternative. But again, it's being picky is okay. Being picky is appropriate. Can't stand up for myself because people are offended. Yeah, that really is the mindset. No, no. Oh man. And it is a 21st century thing too, you know. I think when we look at gatekeepers in the past, William F. Buckley, the libertarians that gate kept, Murray Rothbard, Lou Rockwell, it's that same mindset. But how does that look in the modern era, in the digital age? Well, we're seeing it on full display. So yeah, I don't know. What should the series be called? You know, pseudo intellectual. I don't know, because it's again talking about Ayn Rand. It's just a perfect. It's these are like comic book characters, and the art is very similar to Marvel. You could really sketch out. You could write a screenplay on and predict where political actors sort of fall on the spectrum. And I think looking into people like James Lindsay is a very cool exercise. So I think we're gonna wrap that up. And I didn't have anything else for you guys. I want to start this with Joe Rogan, and thanks to Thomas for really laying it out in very specific terms. So I'll be back. Not sure when, but I'm going to be doing this. Call it please clap. That's a good idea. I'll have to consider that. Yeah. Yeah, it is a very Jeb Bush. It's really like the celebrity equivalent of a Jeb Bush moment. And I think a lot of people still fall for it. So I think we're gonna have a lot of relevant content moving forward. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back. Not sure when, but we're gonna have a lot of good stuff for you. So enjoy your weekend and have a great rest of your day.